I have 6 o'clock, so I'm going to call this meeting to order. So under the good news, bad news, we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we have an announcement. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. The meeting is being recorded, so just please be aware of that. Now, you want the bad news? You have to all go stand outside for a few minutes because we're starting with an executive session. So, we'll let you know when that's all taken care of.
You're going to do a motion to go into it, or you're just...
Yeah, we are. You want to do, yeah.
If you don't mind.
Chris wants to see if he can find him.
Okay. Stand by, I'm waiting for Chris to come back. Where'd he go, do you know?
I think he went to the back front, see if he's back front maybe.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because he's gonna, oh, actually, you know what? Stand by. Who wants to read the motion? Oh, yeah. Okay, see it right there? Yeah. That's the motion. So once you make the motion for executive session, we'll get that done, and then we can excuse the folks. Well, actually, there's only one person to be excused now.
Okay. I move that we accept the executive session pursuant to GLC 30 Alpha, Section 21 Alpha 1, reasons for convening executive session to discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health rather than professional competence of an individual, or discuss the discipline or dismissal of, or complaints or charges against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual.
Thank you. Can I get a second on that, please?
Second?
Okay. We need a roll call vote on it, so, which we do every time, so it doesn't really matter, but just to go on record.
McGuire, aye.
Stewart, aye.
Fraser, aye.
Kelly, aye. We are now in executive session.
I don't want to be mean, man.
Gophers convened in open session. So the first thing on the agenda is for, let's see, we got the public forum and the face-to-face forum. So is there anybody who wants to speak under the public forum part of this?
I'm going to record if that's okay.
Thank you for letting us know. Okay, if there is no one here to speak to the public access part of that, is there somebody who wants to speak under the public network? What do they call it? Public access? Public comments. I see none, so we're going to continue. So that means first order of business up is going to be the minutes of July 28th and we don't have those? Okay.
So it's going to be just September 22nd.
Okay, September 22nd. Has everyone had an opportunity to read through this? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, any thoughts, questions, comments, changes, anything? All right, I don't hear any, so I would be happy to take a motion on this.
I move that we accept the minutes of September 22nd, 2025.
Second?
Okay. If there is nothing else to be said, all in favor?
McGuire abstained?
Stewart, aye.
Fraser, aye.
Kelly, aye. Thank you. Okay. We have nothing under appointments or resignations. Thank you. Okay, under new business, to approve change order number 1 in the contractor's application for payment for public water supply construction. Chris?
That's me, Dick Costa, Chairman of the Board of Health. When we originally got the estimate for the public water supply, they gave us a price for the holding tank, and since then the prices have gone up. So
so that's basically it? We
Yeah.
have to pay the higher price on it. Okay. Any questions from the board to the chair of the Board of Health? I don't see or hear any, so if somebody would like to make a motion on that?
I make a motion, we accept the change order for the Board of Health for the sum of $9,066.51 increase.
Second?
Okay. There's no further discussion, all in favor?
McGuire, aye.
Stewart, aye.
Fraser, aye.
Kelly, aye. Thank you very much. We're all set. Thanks for coming in, Dick.
Hazard, did you read that? That hazard mitigation?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That was the information on population.
Okay, next up, we have the Hazard Mitigation Plan Resolution of Adoption.
Also, the actual application for payment
This
for
one?
the,
Change?
so approving the change allows this to be paid at this amount it needs to be. This is their regular
So we gotta sign
period
it.
billing. that-
Wants us to sign it.
You just need a signature, or is there a motion?
I would just approve it.
Okay.
All right, so we got to approve this, right? All right, somebody want to make a motion on that?
I make a motion to approve the amended,
Where's the application for payment?
the application for payment for public water supply.
Okay,
Second?
all right. Any other questions? All right, all in favor?
McGuire, aye.
Stewart, aye.
Fraser, aye.
Kelly, aye.
Board of Health is gonna get a look at that though, right?
We've already signed it.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah,
Okay.
have it over here.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. First on the hazard mitigation plan.
Okay, well, correct. Okay, so, in 2023,
You see it?
Pioneer Valley updated the hazard mitigation plan for the town. That went to FEMA. It is currently with the status of approved pending adoption. The board just needs to vote it's kind of their standard template for an adoption resolution, and that way FEMA can kind of
So we
fully
adopt,
approve.
so we adopt this and then FEMA approves it.
Yeah, like I say, it's approved pending adoption as of right now. I reached out to the emergency management director, and he had no additional comments beyond the plan itself, which he worked with Pioneer Valley back in 2023 to update.
Good. Any other questions about this? No? Everybody's good? Okay, let's get a motion then, if we could, please.
Motion to adopt the hazard mitigation plan for 2000. It says 23 here. Oh, it's
Yeah.
updated, okay. All right, mitigation plan.
I don't know if this needs to be read in its entirety.
Oh, really?
That has to be ready.
I'm not positive on that, but I believe.
Tom, you're up.
Okay, Tom, you're our reader. Go get him, buddy.
You have the glasses.
You're gonna earn that PhD.
Can we do the last?
I move that we accept the hazard mitigation plan as follows. The Town of Brimfield Select Board, Massachusetts, a resolution of the Brimfield Select Board adopting the Town of Brimfield MVP and hazard mitigation plan update. Whereas the Brimfield Select Board recognizes the threat that natural hazards pose to people and property within the Town of Brimfield. And whereas the Brimfield Select Board has prepared a multi-hazard mitigation plan, hereby known as the Town of Brimfield, Mass. MVP and Hazard Mitigation Plan 2023 update in accordance with federal laws, including the Robert T. Stafford Disaster Relief and Emergency Assistance Act, as amended, the National Flood Insurance Act of 1968 as amended, and the National Dam Safety Program Act as amended, and whereas Town of Brimfield, Mass. MVP and Hazard Mitigation Plan 2023 update identifies mitigation goals and actions to reduce or eliminate long-term risk to people and property in the Town of Brimfield from the impacts of future hazards and disasters. Whereas adoption by the Brimfield Select Board demonstrates its commitment to hazard mitigation and achieving the goals outlined in the Town of Brimfield, Massachusetts MVP and Hazard Mitigation Plan 2023 update. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Town of Brimfield Select Board, Massachusetts, that Section 1, the Brimfield Select Board adopts the Town of Brimfield, Massachusetts MVP and Hazard Mitigation Plan 2023 update. While content related to the Town of Brimfield may require revisions to meet the plan approval requirements, changes occurring after adoption will not require the Brimfield Select Board to re-adopt any further iterations of the plan. Subsequent plan updates following the approval period for this plan will require separate adoption resolutions. And then we fill out the bottom, adopted by a vote of, and we have to vote first before that gets filled out. That's my motion.
That is a good motion you made, too.
Can you reread that? No, just,
Yeah, what did
I
you-
second that.
Hey, what was that? Middle part, what was that middle part?
I second
All
that.
right, so we got a motion and a second. All right, all in favor?
McGuire, aye.
Stewart, aye.
Fraser, aye.
Kelly, aye. I feel like I should let you sign that, because you read all that.
I'll let you sign that. Getting a bird, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Come on down. I wouldn't normally put you on the spot, but seeing as how you came all the way down here to talk about this, I feel like I should give you an opportunity to do that.
Well, it's the first time I'm speaking in front of the town, so.
Just
What's
wanna-
that?
First time I'm speaking in front of the town.
The agenda item, so everyone knows.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. You guys couldn't read my mind, that's interesting. All right, we're talking about the Canon quote for the town annex copier. And this gentleman is here to speak to that because this is,
Yep. So I'm Kevin Gillette, Lyman Barnes Road. Brimfield's been a customer of mine for many, many years. And the lease is up on the copier, and with all the tariffs that are going on, I work for Canon USA, so there's 10% tariffs that went into effect on June 1st to Japan. So our costs have gone up. So in taking a look at your lease, which is up, has been up for a little bit, it was my suggestion to Chris that we just purchase the device. It'd be a lot cheaper, you would own it. I think it's, there's not a lot of copies on it. You guys could probably have it for another 2-3 years, maybe 4, and not incur that lease cost. The only difference would be is that your service rate would be a little bit higher, only because it's now considered a used machine, but when you offset the cost of the lease, it's still a savings. And I think we calculated that within a year, there'd be a savings. Right? So my recommendation is that you buy it. And there was 2 choices. So with copier vendors, we have a buyout to keep for the dealer and a buyout to keep for the customer. So if you guys just wanted to buy it and not do any business with us, then it would be $2,100 to buy it and own it. If I do a buyout to keep for the dealer and I add 1 printer or a scanner or any type of device, then I can sell you that machine for $1,400. It's an incentive that Canon Financial Services puts in there for reps to be able to hold on to customers so they just don't buy it and own it for another 10 years. So my recommendation would be if there's any need of a scanner, a color printer, some sort of device that you guys need or would like to have that you just never thought just didn't want to ask for it. If I put 1 of those devices in, I can sell you that machine for $1,400. And I get no compensation other than whatever I sell you. So if I sell you a $100 printer, I make $5
But we would have to make that purchase
at the same time.
at the same time.
Yep. It's an upgrade to keep for the dealer versus an update to keep for the buyer.
Chris, can you think of anybody that might need a scanner or a printer or
machine, I don't
What's
care
that?
what it
I
is.
can ask around, I'm sure people would always
Yeah.
like something new.
Well, speak up.
Okay, I think we have heard from somebody who could, yeah, okay, there you go.
I'd love to do some business with the police department as well, so.
He must have forgot I emailed him
What do you,
recently.
what do you need, a scanner or
No, I need a laptop.
a laptop?
Yeah, I don't s- we don't
That's
sell
a
that.
different, that's a
Printer
different
scan.
thing.
Scanner,
Gotcha.
um,
Perhaps.
you know, printer, scanner, copier,
Yeah.
those types of
So,
devices.
since we don't know what the building needs, because we didn't put out feelers for that, did we? When do you need a decision by?
Well, you're gonna keep getting it your invoice, your current invoice, over month.
Yep.
So you're just gonna end up having to pay another one of your invoices coming up. So you've got some time, I don't wanna force this
So-
on you. It's just, you know, if you need a month or a few weeks to talk about it, to find out if there's something somewhere where somebody needs something, I mean, it's an extra $700
Yeah.
that you could use on buying something.
Right, because I guess that was gonna be my point. If we just simply buy out what we have, it's $2,100. If we add I use a scanner only as an example. We buy a scanner, then we get the scanner, we buy that machine, and we get it both for 1,400.
Yeah, well, it's $1,400 for the, like, if the scanner's 200,
Yeah.
then it, yeah.
All right, so we have a net, yeah, okay.
But I would like to, before we make any motion on this, I'd like to, ask around the different departments. I'm sure someone needs something. I'm sure there's a wish list a mile long.
I'm okay with that,
I
right?
think that's
So
a
why
good
don't we,
choice.
yeah, we'll just, we'll defer this to a later meeting.
Okay.
I thank you for coming in. You won't have to come the next time because, if
Right
you
down
do,
the
we'll
road.
make
Well,
it
we
talk
should,
to the
I would hope that we
town.
would have a decision by the end of the month.
Yeah, and it could be anything in the town, as long as it's town of Brimfield,
Yep,
I can include it.
okay,
Perfect.
excellent.
All right.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much
so
for
much.
coming and explaining that.
Yep,
Appreciate
thank you.
it.
Thanks, Chris.
Appreciate it very much. Okay, next up, we have Synology and Barracuda quotes for network backup appliance.
Chris?
Chris?
So
You told us to get a lot of training doing this.
Barracuda is what town currently has for backing up the network. The issue is with the Nutanix cluster that is the hub of the network, it does not communicate particularly well. We are also a year lapsed from when this was last renewed, and the school has been doing the backup. What was in the IT budget that was approved back in February was for a 3-year renewal of the Barracuda. IT had wanted to try something different and gotten the Synology. After exploring it, and it works better with the Nutanix cluster, we finally got a quote that actually included the backup subscription, not just the appliance. IT's recommendation was for option 1, the DP320 model, which would be about $3,400 cheaper for 3 years than the Barracuda.
And that's the one that they're recommending?
Yes.
Questions or thoughts from the board?
I think I just have to defer to people that know this,
Yeah, I was gonna say-
because it's over my head.
No, I was gonna,
so-
that's an excellent point, because what I was gonna say is, these are the folks that we trust to do this for us, make sure it's operating right, and if things go wrong, they're the ones we chase around. So if their recommendation is to do this, I think that is probably the route
I
we
would
should
agree.
take on this.
I would agree.
Any other thoughts on it?
And who exactly is recommending this one?
This is,
That would be Will Damon and Steve Rich, both.
Up at Tantascwa to do their
All right.
management for us.
Got it.
Okay. Well, if nobody else has something to say on it, be happy to entertain a motion.
I move that we accept option 1, Synology DP320 Active Protect appliance at the total cost of $6,226.25.
Second.
All right, last chance to talk on it. We're all good? Okay, all in favor?
Dwyer, aye?
Stewart, aye.
Fraser, aye.
Kelly, aye. Thank you. Next up, we have Civics Plus migration. Select standard website layout options. And did you see what all that was? Here are the pictures.
That goes to the
Pictures.
This goes what?
That's the, yeah, that goes to the one we just voted on.
Thank you. So this is just
Just
pictures.
basically, we have.
Yeah,
one
this is just
layout.
basically what it will look like when you call up the screen.
What is this? Civic Plus migration, okay.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so
Select standard website layout.
will any of those strike your fancy as the way the screen should look?
No.
Hmm?
I'll let Chris pick that. He has to look at it.
That's right, Chris, you're looking at it all day long. What do you have? Do you have
I
a
mean-
preference?
Yeah.
Okay, Chris.
This is your chance for power, man. It's all on you.
This is exactly the power I've been waiting for.
I'm just glad I could be here for it.
So this one, I mean, the standard one is a little bit more pleasing to the eye. What do you think, Chris?
Sure.
Oh, boy.
I'll just
So-
make a motion to stick with to go with the standard one.
I just have a question first. So
Sure.
I'm
Everybody's
trying to,
pretty cute. I like two.
well, I'm trying to read the small print in the screens rather than the pictures. And like, you know, I see a calendar, which would be good. I see news and announcements, which would be great, right? I don't see that on all of them, I don't think.
I think as you scroll down, that's all gonna be on the first page. I don't know. I mean, that I don't know. Right, with this, that would be standard one, correct?
Yeah, it looks like standard two has that option. See?
Standard 3, 4, 5, because they're all numbered.
Well,
All right.
yeah.
Standard 3.
Chris, what would you suggest? Seriously,
I don't know, one or two?
solid.
One or two. Toss the coin.
Too many
This
options.
is not the place to get.
All right, I'm gonna make a motion. I move that we go with Central Standard 2.
Think about that next time, Chris.
Very well.
Okay, so
I'll second that.
we have a second on that. All right,
I like the
everybody
layout.
okay?
Yes, I'm fine, I'm completely fine with that.
All right, all in favor?
McGuire, aye.
Stewart, aye.
Fraser, aye.
Kelly, aye. We are on two.
There's more information there.
Yeah, it's better.
Oh, yes. Looking around. You want to speak to the stamp? This is select board support for Tabitha Moffett Brown stamp. Did I get that right?
Correct.
And just when you come up, just say who you are for everybody that's watching.
Mike DeFalco, down on Town Palmer Road. The Historical Commission is sent in a request to the Citizen Stamp Advisory Committee at the national level, the government one that determines which commemorative stamps are issued. And we put in a request to have a commemorative stamp issued for Tabitha Moffett Brown. She was born in 1780 in Brimfield. She married the Congregational Church minister Clark Brown. Later in life, she went on the Oregon Trail. When she got to Oregon, she started a school for kids at today's Pacific University. Later, in 1971, the state legislature in Oregon passed a resolution declaring her the Mother of Oregon. And one other thing is during the war, there were about 2,700 Liberty ships that were built. Only about 115 were named after women, and one of them was named after her. So we've been in touch with people in Oregon. There's a Daughter of the American Revolution club that's named after her in Oregon. And they have agreed to also, send letters of support and get involved. There's also descendants of Tabitha Moffett Brown still living in Oregon, who we've been in touch with. we tried this 3 years ago, and it didn't get accepted. So you have to wait 3 years to put in a request again. So 2025 is 3 years.
Okay.
And I think the difference this time is that they like to issue stamps that commemorate 200 years, 250 years, something along those lines. At the time, there was nothing close to anything in her life, or birth, or death, whatever. Having born in 1780, the 250th anniversary will be 5 years from now. And usually, when they determine a stamp, they're looking 2, 3, 4 years down the road because they have so many requests. So what we're looking for, I've also sent emails to Senators Markey and Warren, Congressman Neal, and to the Massachusetts Historical Society or Commission, one or the other, asking them to support this as well. So we're just looking at, since you guys are the, or ladies and gentlemen, are the, you know.
Can I just ask a question? So, I mean, it's amazing information that you're giving. What does your commission, what does it entail for you guys? Like, how long of a process is this? What do you have to do? What kind of work are you putting into this?
Basically, sending the letter, reaching out to people for letters of support, talking with people in Oregon, and then it's all in the hands of this committee. If they determine it, then that they accept it and they will issue a stamp, then they reach out to people to come up with a design for the stamp and stuff. And then what's happened in the past with other stamps that have been tied to local things, there'll be like a dedication ceremony at the local post office. And, you know, so really, at this point, there's no more work on our part. It's basically in their hands, and they either say yes or no.
Right, well, I thank you for your work on it.
It's excellent background.
Oh, thanks.
Very good.
We know where Chris gets it from.
His mother, not me.
That's what I always say too. Thank God they take after their mom. Okay.
I make a motion that this board support the Tabitha Brown stamp, what are we gonna call it?
That's right. The
Stamp?
Yeah, Tabitha Moffett
Yep.
Brown stamp, yeah. Okay, we get a second on that?
Second that.
Right, we get a second, all in favor?
McGuire, aye?
Stewart, aye.
Fraser, aye.
Kelly, aye. Thank you.
Mike,
Good
quick
luck.
question is this something we can wrap into the 250th anniversary?
I don't think they work that fast. I mean, if we do their approval, we can make that known. But my experience with the
It'll be a while.
stamp committee,
Yeah.
they meet 4 times a year, and they go over whatever requests come in. But they're not exactly known for their speed.
Okay.
And you know what, I mean, it could, I feel like it would be worthy of, even if you don't have an answer by then, just during the course of all the presentations, just say, you know, we're very hopeful, we have a very notable person from, you know what I mean? Even
Can
if
we
you don't
make-
have it, we can
Yeah,
still.
I mean, can we make a display for June 13th, right, for that event? This is a woman pioneer that comes from Brimfield. You know, there might be something we can build around this. We're going to have, you know, the high school students doing their patriotic art displays, wondering even if we can energize any of them to do a presentation, right, on Tabitha Moffett Brown, if we educate them.
Stamp design of
One
some
other
sort.
thing I forgot to say, the house she lived in, still lives, stands on East Hill Road, it was the house John Curtis owned. So
Oh.
there's actually carvings in the old wood in the house of her and her siblings, you know,
Oh.
names.
Wow.
It was a board game that they owned 250 years
Yeah.
ago, that he found in the house. So it was a
Yeah.
lot of time.
Again, I think, I mean, you guys give amazing information, and just a real quick
You
thought.
have to read the next
I would
part.
love for that,
There's two
like,
parts.
for you guys to somehow, like, you know, do a display at, like, an open house for the kids or something, like, I feel like our youth they're missing out on the history. So maybe that's something that we could happy to work with you with that, see if we can, you know, bring Brimfield history to our students, like, right off the bat, and not wait till you're 49 years old to hear it.
Yeah, this
Well,
is
we
really
were
good.
just gonna
That-
say
We'll
that
talk
about
offline, maybe at the
she lived
meeting, or,
right
yeah.
So,
You know? All right, thank you all very much. Mike, thanks for that, appreciate it. Okay, so next up, we have the open meeting law complaint from
Oh, no,
Christopher.
just skip that.
What did I skip?
Historic Commission, Massachusetts State Records Advisory. You see that?
Letter of support, yeah. I was looking for it.
Historical Commission, Massachusetts State
Yeah, this
Historical
one.
Records Advisory
Yeah,
Board.
it's
grant
Okay,
letter of
check the wrong one, sorry, that's on me. Historical Commission, Massachusetts State Historical Records Advisory Board, grant letter of support. Come on down.
So they're requesting two
Same,
things. Go ahead.
Same name, same address. Well, we're looking to apply for a grant from that long Mass Historical Records Board. And what it entails is a graduate student in archival collections and stuff along those lines would provide 60 hours of time to go through the collection, help organize it, make sure everything is preserved correctly, kind of the process we've been doing without that experience in the background.
Yep.
And they will also provide increments of $500 for archival supplies. I take it that if, depending on what they determine that's needed, you'll get 500, 1,000, et cetera, but you get a minimum of 500. The only issue, what we need is a letter from the Select Board, to approve that they're in favor, or not so much in favor, they approve us applying for the grant. The only
Is it
issue.
approve or
which-
support? We're behind.
Approve.
It says
I have the actual
statement
wording
of commitment.
I send, but I believe it's that you
This is
guys, you
letters.
folks are saying this is something we are okay with and we support it. The only issue is that the person would be working on site, which means they would have to be in the town hall.
Or somewhere.
Or the materials have to be moved somewhere else. Now, there are a lot of significant issues in why the town hall isn't the best place without heat, et cetera, et cetera. But that's one of the questions in the grant that I have to answer, whether there's, what kind of space is available, what's heating like, is it ADA compliant, is it this, is it that? So I'm being very honest, explaining the situation, and that may not help us. But the other factor is that the people that they basically hired to do this, the students, the colleges they come from, which geographic area, which will help determine if we get the grant. If both people that they hire from the North Shore, we're kind of out of luck. If one of them's from Amherst College, for instance, then we have a much better chance because they're local. And as I say, the two things that we were looking for is, one, the letter of commitment, but again, that's based on if we can get access to the building. Somebody from the Historical Commission would be with that person the entire time. It's either can be done in a straight stretch or part-time over a 2-month period. And as I say, someone would be with the person at all times, so they wouldn't be in the building by themselves. But I know, given the fact that it's shut down and stuff, that may be a discouragement, so.
So let me ask you this, obviously they're not going through all the archives, right? I mean, could we essentially move something to a different location? Or a group of,
I suppose, I'm not really sure.
because I don't see,
What-
I'm just thinking like, take some stuff into the
Yeah.
library one week and, work on it in there. That would cover your ADA and all that stuff.
And I think so too with the Hitchcock Academy.
Yep,
They
Hitchcock
would be
Academy,
willing
the
to let us
heat
use
is,
that
yeah.
Off and on,
Okay. I could
We're
put that.
sure not
I
gonna
could
be
put
ready
in
for
the
that
grant.
in our own buildings at this point.
Right.
Yeah, because they will be going through everything in the vault. I've
Yeah.
tried to limit it just to historical stuff, not that any things that are more recent and stuff, which are boxes all over the place. But this is specifically the historical documents. And as I say, I can put that in the grant and indicate that, we can move material materials off-site.
I think that's the way to go, just for safety when we
Hard
plan
to have a
whether,
moving target too,
Yeah.
right?
Right, yeah.
even if they went through some of your,
Yeah.
some of your documents. And, but I think that's the way to go, to move it off-site. That way, there's no issue,
Yeah.
unforeseen.
Well, as I say, that was my big concern with the fact that,
Right. It's worth a try, right? It's worth a
Yeah.
shot.
and like you said, it's worth a shot. We had applied for and received a roving archivist grant about 2 or 3 years ago. And this is the same state agency that gave us that. And usually when you get the roving archivist grant, that gives you a leg up on the next step, which is this one.
Yeah.
So that gives us,
Hope.
yeah, gives us a reasonable chance of getting it. But, okay, then I'll change the thing around. And I've also been talking with Deb so that she's fully
Well,
aware.
don't change anything, let the rest of the board speak. Don't change anything yet.
No, we're following her lead on this totally.
No, that was good discussion, and
Yeah.
good comments and questions, because I was gonna say the same thing about, you don't want that person in the town hall while it's closed like
Right.
this.
Yeah,
So,
there's no way we could let it,
no,
Yeah.
we shouldn't have anybody in there.
no, that's right.
But, some things just have to be, so.
We've got steps to get people in
We
there,
do,
but
right.
we can't push it.
And the library's probably not the place to do the work, non-ADA.
Yeah.
But, if you could work with the Hitchcock Academy, and
Okay.
maybe use that, or maybe there's a place somewhere that I haven't
Yeah.
thought of, or we haven't thought of.
Yeah.
But that would have to be the way it goes for something like this.
And that's something that you can make that decision. I mean, you just as capable of going and saying, okay, we get ADA access in here, we can, this would be a good spot to park.
Yeah.
And I would just talk to Cindy, I'm sure that she'd be fine with that.
Did you find this opportunity for us?
Actually, I got an email, having dealt with them before, I'm now on kind of their mailing list, so whenever something
you.
comes up, grants that may be applicable to, small towns, then I might usually get something in the mail.
Well, thank you for
Good.
doing that.
Thanks, Michael.
That's exactly.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Appreciate
good
your
stuff,
time.
Mike, thank you. That's good.
Okay. You all
So
set?
Are we going to write the letter of support though?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
All right, so should we make a
Wi-
motion on that?
within-
Yeah,
I
go
would
ahead,
say-
make a motion just to make it
That the
official.
Board of Selectmen write a letter of support to the State Historical Records Advisory Board.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
McGuire, aye?
Stewart, aye.
Fraser, aye.
Kelly, aye, thank you. And just as an FYI, for anybody who doesn't realize this, I know it looks like we look a lot to Chris for information on some of these things, and the reason for that is, I work with Chris every day. I'm in there reading all of this stuff, and he brings me up to speed on it. But it's not legal for me to start having these discussions with all the other members, even one at a time, is considered a violation of the open meeting law. So, when you come in here, I will say to him, please be prepared to let the board, explain it to the board in open session. So, it's not that we haven't looked at it before, we have, but at different levels. Just so I would say that, Chris. Chris goes, do anything but keep calling on me. All right. So next up, we have the open meeting law complaint from Christopher Harry, and Mr. Stewart is going to read the complaint and the response that we're looking for the board to make. But it's up to the board. Go ahead.
So the form is the open meeting law complaint form, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Office of the Attorney General, 1 Ashburton Place, Boston, Massachusetts. Description of alleged violation. During the select board meeting on August 28th, 2025, Mr. Kelly publicly attacked my character in an open session for 5 or more minutes. In my opinion, this is an attempt to diminish my reputation and discredit my future campaign for select board. And this is, by the way, I missed mentioning, submitted by Christopher Harry. He even stated that I am a perennial candidate for select board, and he believes that is why I posted. This was not listed on the agenda. He referenced a Facebook post I made from my personal account concerning a prior select board meeting in which I presented factual information about discussion topics and points raised by others. I also included a section labeled in capital letters, "My Thoughts," to clarify my personal opinions. Mr. Kelly mischaracterized my thoughts and opinions, neglecting to mention the discussion notes I provided. Instead, he focused solely on my personal beliefs, offering his opinions as a means to discredit my statements without providing any factual counterpoints. This vicious and calculated attack against me as a tax-paying citizen is wholly unacceptable and approaches the level of slander. I subsequently requested to be added to the agenda for the upcoming meeting on September 8th, 2025 in order to address the events that transpired and seek closure. Despite the Vice Chair's support for my inclusion, the request was ultimately denied. And then in capital letters, I have the audio recording and can supply it at any time. The next section is, what action do you want the public body to take in response to your complaint? Mr. Kelly's actions represent a concerning misuse of authority and are, in my view, unacceptable. I respectfully request that the Select Board Chair coordinate with me to include a discussion of this matter on a future meeting agenda. Additionally, I would appreciate a public acknowledgement from the Chair clarifying that my personal views were misrepresented as factual statements, along with an appropriate apology. Signed, Christopher Harry, September 16th, 2025. And the letter.
This is what we have written up as a response to that, so I'm gonna have Selectman Stewart read this, and then if the board is good with it, we will just vote to send that as a response, and if you wanna change or add or delete something, you're free to do that also, so you have the floor, sir.
The Select Board has reviewed Mr. Harry's complaint. The primary assertion with regard to the open meeting law is that the Chair's comments did not relate to an item on the agenda. The Chair's comments occurred during the agenda item, open public forum, in response to misinformation. Per the open public forum policy voted by the Select Board, the agenda item will provide, in quotes, 10 minutes for public questions/comments and 5 minutes for social media response comments, end quote. While the time spent responding to misinformation on social media extended beyond the 5 allotted minutes designated in the policy, use of additional time was at the discretion of the Chair. As such, the Select Board does not believe the concerns contained in the description, or open quote, description of alleged violation, end quote, constitute a violation of the open meeting law. While Mr. Harry's subsequent request for placement on the September 8th Select Board meeting agenda was denied, Mr. Harry was made aware that his concerns could be addressed to the Select Board at the next open public forum.
Okay, and that is the response. Do we have any comments, thoughts, questions, or a motion?
I actually have a comment, or a question, I guess it's a question. Is what we just did, is that protocol, meaning to read the violation and to read the letter? And let me finish my thought, only because the last open meeting violation on myself, we didn't read either. So I'm just trying to understand, is this what we're doing, is this protocol? Is this how it's normally done? And did we miss that in the last open meeting law violation?
Yeah, I don't remember that we didn't do it the last one, to be honest
We
with you.
did.
Well, I think you would, Bart,
Yeah.
I'm sure you know that, but.
We did.
Well, anything that hits our desk is a public record.
Right.
So whether we read it or not, it's still a public record, so.
Okay.
And yes, I would say that going forward, that's an excellent point that you make, and that we
Okay.
should
All right.
do that. And I will,
Just so that I'm.
and make sure if it's not, that you remind me
Okay.
at a later date on
Okay.
something like that.
And I will say, I think, our statement, it does appear factual. I do agree with this statement. But I think this board is missing the boat if we don't open up conversation, have a deeper conversation, have a more at length conversation on how we deal with Facebook and how we deal with information that, we feel isn't accurate. There's lots of information out there that, that people that attack me. So I think that we as a board, and to vote on this letter by no means that anybody on this board agrees with, everything that was done at that meeting, because that's not what this is about. But I think we need to open up a conversation with this board on how we can be better, and how we can do better, and how we can address these things that come up. And not talk at each other, but talk to each other. That's all I'll say.
Okay, thank you.
So I'll go next, if you don't mind.
No.
So I agree that there's definitely a larger conversation here, and what we're seeing right here play out is a microcosm of probably a larger issue. And so once we're done with this, I'm gonna end up, well, I wanna make a motion, right? I just, I think we need to have that larger, I'm gonna make a motion to have a larger discussion at some point at one of our next meetings to create a code of conduct for the way we handle our open meeting law complaints, how we deal with inaccurate info, and bringing up the names of people that are not in attendance at a meeting. You know, our decorum, you know, when we talk about our own behavior, you know, it might be legal, but I just think that it's probably not the best practice to bring up by name in the future. So I think that these are things that we need to talk about just in a larger context so that we're all comfortable next time with what we're all saying. So.
You have something to add?
No.
All right, I'm gonna say this. I can't make any kind of response to any of this right now because, well, this is an open issue. But once it's resolved favorably, which I have no doubt it will be, I will have a lot more to say about this. And as far as, you know, mentioning people by name, if it's out on the public networks, as far as I'm concerned, there is no expectation of privacy. That's my position on it. And once this is resolved, we will go forward. And I'm not gonna recognize you, so you can put your hand down. We're not having a public discussion. All right. So I guess we.
Clarify, if you put my name on the agenda,
Please.
you won't let me talk though?
Please, no. You had an opportunity at the open forum in the beginning, and you had an opportunity where it said, dealing with misinformation on the public network. So, and you chose not to comment on either. This is not a discussion point. So, having said that, if we can get a motion for this, because we have to respond to the state for this.
Yeah, so can we just be clear to everybody, so when we receive the violation, we have 14 days to have a response. And this office comes up with a response, and then we take a vote. I just want to be very clear at what the process is like. And again, I do see that, you know, this board's response, it does appear factual. Again, do I necessarily agree with the goings-on of that day completely? No. But I will make a motion to accept this letter. The open law complaint letter. Response, sorry. Response.
All right, can I get a second to that?
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor?
McGuire, aye.
Stewart, aye.
Fraser, aye.
Kelly, aye. Next up, we have the Halloween trick-or-treating time. I'm so glad you called about that. I totally forgot that.
We usually set the trick-or-treat hours. In the past years, since COVID, it's been 4 to 7. Halloween this year, I believe, is on a Friday night. So I'm kind of leaning towards going like a 5 to 8, since it is not a school night.
Do we know when the sun goes down?
That's the thing. 4 o'clock is really early for parents.
I can figure that out right now.
Yeah, I know it is. No, you're
Yeah,
right. You're right.
and seeing that it is a Friday night, I mean,
I'll have that in a second.
or even push it back.
You're
by an
looking
hour.
at what the weather,
I tried to do
the
that.
sun goes down?
It's set.
Sunset is at 6:21 PM.
6:30
It'll be
goes.
dark by 6:51 PM.
So how about we go 4:30 to 7:30?
Yeah.
I'd just push it back a little bit. I mean, parents are
No,
like
that's fine.
driving crazy to get home to their kids. Yeah, so I would make a motion to have the trick-or-treat hours October 31st from 4:30 to 7:30. So that's 3 hours.
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor?
McGuire, aye.
Stewart, aye.
Fraser, aye.
Kelly, aye.
And I will also mention that our rec committee, the Athletic Association, does their trunk or treat on the 25th this year, which is a great community event.
You want to say where it is?
No.
Okay. Wait,
Just check out their website for the information on there.
I'm gonna have somebody else say it?
Sure.
You know where it is?
Where, what is?
The trunk or treat?
No.
I'll say, it's at, with all disclosure, I'm no longer employed by the Brimfield Winery, so I can state that. Full disclosure, I'm not working with them anymore, but it's a great event. It's held at the Brimfield Winery, October 25th.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we did.
All right, next up, we have discharge of liens on 63 Munson Road and 48 Munson Road. And the first one is in Brimfield, 48 Munson Road is in Wales. These are the release of Chapter 61 liens. And basically, all we're saying is that we have no interest in buying those lots, so we can just sign off on that.
So, I mean, we have all the, I think, Chris, we've had a conversation that everything is in order, right?
Yes, I included in the packet the comment on Pioneer Valley, who's been administering this, attesting that everything has been paid.
So, yeah, I thought that would be a good idea to have something in writing stating that, confirmation that everything has been paid. So I make a motion to start the discharge of the liens. Do you want to do it separately? Is that 63 Munson Road, Brimfield?
Yep.
And, okay.
We have a motion on 63 Munson Road in Brimfield to release the lien, 61 lien on that.
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor?
McGuire, aye.
Stewart, aye.
Fraser, aye.
Billy, aye?
A discharge of lien, I make a motion to discharge of the lien on 48 Munson Road in Wales.
Second that.
Okay, all in favor?
McGuire, aye.
Stewart, aye.
Fraser, aye.
Billy, aye. Thank you. Okay, next up, we have the Senior Center Director job posting. Has that been posted?
Do you want to, these need to be notarized, do you want to send these tomorrow?
I'll sign it tomorrow when Deb is there and get a note.
Can I just ask about that real quick? Chris, you got the Eva's additions or edits that we collected up, and did you make that into the final?
So I have in the packet both the previous one and the one with containing Eva's edits, just for the board to look at both.
So the red is
Yes.
Eva's, okay. So what I don't, my only question is here, so, I mean, are we going to put a salary range? Oh, you did, the position's upper. So that's the range, or is that what the tax is making?
That is the current
Okay.
price.
So I would, we've gotten kind of a little with putting that. I'd like to see a range there on position, because, I mean, people have different, backgrounds, and people have different experience. And I think we need to do a better job at, someone coming right in shouldn't be making what the last person was necessarily. So I would like to see a range there.
Okay, I'd be happy to hear a range from you if you'd like to offer that up.
Now you're putting me on the spot. Do we know, Chris, what?
What is the minimum for the state, or what would you feel?
So it's 12 hour, it's 22 hours a week.
Right. Could you do something like 22 to 34?
Well, the current is at 28.
Right. you
So
do
maybe go like a,
half and half. How would you split it?
It's kind of split right in the middle, isn't it? 28 between 22 and 34,
Yeah.
right? So,
say that again? I'm sorry.
22 an hour to 34 an hour, which gives you a range to
Right.
select. and
I would be
then-
comfortable with that.
right.
I would be more
Why
comfortable
don't
with
you make that the motion, and then we'll make it
23 to
official.
34?
22.
22 to 34. Because 28 falls right in the
Right.
Yep.
I mean, does the board, I mean, I'm up for discussion here. I mean, welcome your thoughts, but how do you feel about just that one number being there? Because
I think they need more flexibility,
Right,
because someone has to train up,
right.
or if they have more experience.
So
then
I
they
make a
more
motion
money.
to amend the job description to 22 to 34 dollars an hour for 22 hours per week.
And do you want to adopt Eva's suggestions? I mean, it all makes sense, it's all
Yeah,
well
I
written.
mean,
so the only thing we're doing now is just establishing what the range is gonna be, and I think 22 to 34 is a good range for that.
Yeah. So I would make the motion to use the job description as is written, with the exception of the $22 to $34 an hour range.
Marty, may I just
Yes,
speak for a second? 'Cause I don't know
I'm
if this will make a
recognizing you,
difference.
Eva, because you are the recently retired director,
I am,
and your information is pertinent to what we're discussing,
yes.
okay?
As far as the pay range goes, I'm not sure how you want to word that in your motion. It is a salary, it's not an hourly rate. It's just broken down to an hourly rate.
Yeah, I
to
don't-
make it easy
But
for the accountant.
the accountant, I believe the accountant, that's the way everything's done, because it's
Yeah.
very, and it's hard for me to put my finger on as well, when people have salaries, and it comes down to hourly, and it.
You know, this
Right.
town tends to do that, and I don't know why,
Right.
but they've done it forever. It's a very simple thing. If you are a wage employee, you work for X amount of dollars an hour times however many hours you work.
Right.
If you are a salaried employee, you have a task-oriented job, which means you are required to do this. And if you can do it in this many hours, you still get paid the same amount of money as if you did it in this many hours. So that's really the difference. There's no overtime, there's no,
Right.
you know,
Right.
you get paid X amount of dollars to do the job, and that's that, so. And if you can, I mean, when we talk about the range, that still can apply to the salary.
Salary, right,
Because
'cause we'll
depending on
figure
the
it out,
thing, you
right.
would just take that and,
Right.
you know, and
Okay.
extrapolate it
I
out.
just think it gives us, yeah, it gives
Right.
us flexibility.
Yeah.
Because we don't
I
know.
agree, I think it's an excellent.
Okay,
Okay, so we have a motion on that?
yes, sir.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. There's no other questions on it, all in favor?
McGuire, aye?
Stewart, aye.
Fraser, aye?
Kelly, aye. Okay, we have two more here that involve Eva. One is the offer of assistance during senior center director vacancy and transition. And I know that was very generous of you to offer to do that. And I think, you know, we talked about the fact that it would have to be, you know, I mean, it's great if you want to do that, but it's pretty much a volunteer thing until they get up to speed. And as long as you're good with that, which I presume you are, because I know you had a conversation with Chris about it.
Right.
So you're okay with that, right?
I'm comfortable with that for a while anyway.
Yeah,
for a month.
yeah, and it's short term until somebody's up to speed on it,
Right,
you know?
just, and we should state that, you know, when it comes to money and things, we have something in place for that.
Yeah.
So you're just more there to volunteer for guidance, correct?
Okay,
Right.
so you want the money turned over to Chris?
Yep.
For deposit? And what about payroll and that sort of thing?
So
Do you
Mar-
want me to do it, do you want Marie to do it?
It's my understanding that Marie's gonna do that.
Marie can do that, yes.
I think she's got it, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
That's all, just send
That's good.
everything over there.
I hate to say we're gonna make it as a motion, because we're not really hiring you, you know what I mean?
Right.
You're just saying that this is something, and I think we're all A-okay with it, so nobody's gonna come
Okay.
knocking on the
Good.
door and
I'm
telling you to
making
go
it
home,
easy as
you know?
And I think we're more than A-okay with it, we're very appreciative, because we know that,
Welcome.
you're important over there.
Well, I want to see it go smoothly.
Yes, absolutely, as we all do.
Whoever's coming in.
Correct.
Eva, this is textbook on how you serve your community and how you end your term as well, so this is good stuff, and you've heard thank you before from us, but thank you again for that.
You're welcome. I've always enjoyed it, so.
And everybody, the next item up is Eva donating into the sick bank. Everybody who participates thanks you on this.
Good.
Because she is putting in 264.7 hours of unused sick time to the town of Brimfield Employment Sick Bank. So, thank you very much. It's very generous of you to do that.
Do we have to make a motion?
Yeah, just make a
Okay,
motion
make
to-
a motion to accept Eva's unused sick time for 264 hours with sick bank. Appreciate that.
Okay? Are you a second on that?
I'll do a second for
All
that.
right. All in favor?
McGuire, aye.
Stewart, aye.
Fraser, aye.
Kelly, aye. Thank you again. Sick bank withdrawal request. That
Okay,
didn't
so,
take long.
so within our bylaws, the personnel officer has the ability to withdraw sick bank hours for employees at that person's discretion, at the officer's discretion. But I didn't want to do that this way. I wanted to board, you know, with respecting confidentiality. So I would like to withdraw 50 hours for an employee that is in need of some sick time hours. Without going into detail, I think it's, you know, it's a long-term employee, and that's what it's there for. It's there to help out our employees. So I would suggest we can withdraw, you know, unless you guys have questions, I'd like to withdraw 50 hours to that employee, and then reassess if needed.
Is that a motion?
It was more for discussion. I don't think there's any
I don't think there's
action needs to
really-
be taken.
I think you're doing the right thing.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
I agree.
That's your
As I took the position on, I always said that I would never make a decision without bringing it, at least, you know, minimum information to the board.
Yeah, personally, my own take on this would be, unless it's some kind of extraordinary circumstance that we should all talk about.
Okay.
You know, we were confident when we put you in that position,
Okay.
and we trust your judgment.
All right,
So
well, I appreciate that. I just wanted to be
whatever it
upfront.
takes to make it happen, right?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I should also note that because that position is being filled right now for the time being, that this is going to be a reserve transfer. So it's going to, Marie, spoke to Marie, it's going to be, she's going to put in for a reserve transfer. Because when the sick bank doesn't have a dollar amount per se, if that position wasn't going to be filled, then we would have money in that line item.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, I do.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, and last up on the hit list here is 2026 Annual Common Victualers License. There are two here, Apple Barn Cafe and Brimfield Market. So why don't we do them one at a time, please?
Make a motion to accept the common victular license for Apple Barn Cafe.
I second it.
If there's no discussion,
Chris, everything's in order, right? Yep. And we always ask you, we know it's in order, but we just gotta ask you.
okay, all in favor?
McGuire, aye?
Stewart, aye.
Fraser, aye.
Kelly, aye. Okay, and last on the list is Brimfield Market.
Make a motion to give common victular license to Brimfield Market.
Second that.
Okay, all in favor?
McGuire, aye?
Stewart, aye.
Fraser, aye.
Kelly, aye. Next scheduled meeting is October 20th, 2025.
Can I add one thing here at the end? Going back up, just watching how, and I'm new to this whole thing, but I'm watching how we're just navigating our agenda. And, we asked Eva to speak on behalf of the job posting and a few other things. And I know it's painful sometimes to listen, but I think we need to open up the way we listen to people. And that is a part of the future, larger discussion that we talked about a few minutes ago about a code of conduct. We may not be prepared for it right now, but I would like to put that in there for our future discussion.
Fair enough. Chris, could you put that in the list of items to be included at a subsequent meeting, please?
May I make a motion to
May you, I insist.
adjourn meeting?
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor?
McGuire, aye?
Stewart, aye.
Fraser, aye.
Kelly, aye. We are adjourned. Hey, can you know how we